here. Welcome. We are at week 1 of a 4-week series that I'm doing on peak performance. And today I just want to talk a little bit about what is peak performance, how do you become a peak performance person, how do you get to the very best level in your business or your personal life, how do you reach your peak. So first of all, I want to define from my perspective what is a peak performer. And a peak performer is someone who has reached a level in either their personal life or their business life where they are operating at their highest and best possible skill level. So for example, you see athletes that are peak performers. They are doing their very, very best. They're at their peak. They are successful, and that's as good as they're going to get. They've kind of reached that peak level. The key in real estate, of course, is for you to hit that peak level and to stay there. So first of all, you have to know that about 10% of the population are peak performers. The other 90% might be performing well or very well, but they haven't actually hit their peak. And there are two things that I really think are important when you're thinking about yourself as a peak performer, and that is first to analyze, have you ever worked at your peak level at anything you've done? And imagine that's in your personal life and it's not in real estate. Go back to that point and ask yourself, when were you working at your peak? There are 3 things that most peak performers have in common. And those 3 things are that they have the ability to take action. So they decide what action is needed to really do the very, very best in my business or in my hobby or my personal life. So number 1 is action. The next thing is attitude. They've got a good attitude, and their attitude is set to win. They know that they're going to have some failures along the way. They're very realistic about what that journey might look like, but they've got the right attitude. And the right attitude is that I'm going to succeed, I'm going to win at all costs. And that sometimes that you're going to have some failure along the way. And their attitude is good about that. They understand that's a part of it. The third thing is tools and systems. They're realistic and they know that in order to reach their peak performance level, they are going to need some systems and some tools, whether that's personal, whether that's hobby, whether that's business. But in order to reach that peak performance level, they've got to think about what tools are going to help them, what systems are going to help them. So in real estate, what I find is when I meet a peak performer, they always have systems and tools. I'll ask them a little bit about their business. What are you doing for lead generation? What are you doing for follow-up? What are you doing for client care? And they tell me, they say, oh, let me tell you what I do for lead generation. I do this, this, and this, and I make sure that this, this, and this gets done every week or every month or every year. But they're very systematic. They're very organized. They've got a system that they're following that's bringing them that predictable success. They're working at a peak performance level. You know, if only 10% of the population is working at a peak performance level, that's a pretty good indication that 90% of the people out there aren't. And if you're in that 90%, there's a way to become a peak performer. But the first thing you have to do is you have to ask yourself, what do I want to be a peak performer at? And if it's real estate, you have to get honest with yourself and you have to ask yourself, what skills are you missing? What tools are you missing? What part of your attitude needs to be adjusted in order for you to reach that level? And most importantly, if you want to be a peak performer, you have to sit down and you have to ask yourself, what are the precise steps that need to be taken? Now, what I like to do with agents in a way to help them is to say, okay, in what area of your real estate business do you want to be a peak performer in? Because for most agents, it's really hard just to say, I want to be a peak performer, I want to be good at everything. So let's choose one area. If it's client care, let's focus on that and be a peak performer in client care. If it's lead generation, let's create a lead generation program for you. Let's get the tools in place, the systems in place, and let's have you be working at that peak performance level in lead generation. Maybe it is follow-up. You want to be a peak performer in your follow-up. You want it to just be the best part of your business because you know that will bring you more business. Then choose one of those 3 areas to start in. Because for most peak performers, what they also have in common is they started with one thing, they mastered it, they gained confidence, and then they chose another. So peak performance, just because you may be in that 90%, doesn't mean that you can't step over that line and be one of that 10% of the population that is a peak performer. Because peak performers make more money, peak performers have a better quality of life, and peak performers provide greater quality service. And they do that because they have figured out the systems that they need, and they do it in a manner that's duplicatable, and they do it in a way that gives them some quality of life and some time. So I want you to really think about peak performance and ask yourself, are you really at your peak performance level? Could you do better? And if you could do better, decide what area you want to do better in, and then you need to sit down and really ask yourself, if you had a magic wand and could create the perfect you, the best level you could be in either of those categories, that's what you need to do, and then you need to create your plan around it. And of course, we're here to help you, so please send me an email if you have a question or a comment or want to know how you can reach that level. But peak performance is something that you can attain, and we're going to be talking a lot more about it in the next 3 weeks to come.